May 25th, 1977 saw the release of George Lucas's Star Wars, which quickly became a surprise blockbuster hit. Often regarded as one of the greatest and most influential movies ever made, it helped change the way movies were made and captured the imagination of a generation. Star Wars quickly became a pop culture phenomenon. Over the course of this series, I will be joined by a number of Star Wars fans from across YouTube and the toy collecting community, as we take a look back at their earliest memories of Star Wars and find out what made Star Wars great. Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here, and welcome to the channel. And contrary to what I said last week, this week is definitely episode 5 of What Made Star Wars Great, the series where I invite guests on from YouTube and the toy collecting communities to discuss their first experiences with Star Wars and to basically find out what made Star Wars great. And joining me this week is my good friend, Gary Moore. Hello, sir. How are you?
Very good, Stu. Very good indeed. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me along.
As you know, this series is about Star Wars and about what made Star Wars great. Now, I know we discussed it briefly in the background there, but there has been a lot of negativity surrounding Star Wars. Just want your thoughts on it. Is it just?
I'm going to say no. I've been watching this series of individuals, and I think when I've reflected and had time to think about it, I actually think no, it's not so just that we're kind of slating something new. You know, we've gone through this process of the original trilogy, the prequels, the sequels, and now we're in this era of TV media. And from my perspective, it's about trying new things. So if we're trying new things and it doesn't work, blow it up. And that's, you know, like we say with the Acolyte series that's just been cancelled, they tried something. There were elements of that show that were absolutely fantastic and awesome. And there was parts that just didn't work. And so from my standpoint, I think, you know, keeping that positive spin on this thing, I'm going to say no, it's not just.
Okay. No. That's fair enough. I respect that. So going forward then, how can you turn a negative into a positive? What is it that in your eyes failed with the Acolyte? Was it the writing? Was it the story? Was it the acting? What can they take and improve going forward with any other Star Wars projects?
So for me, it comes down to story. You know, why was Star Wars so great in the first place? It was all about the classic story of good versus evil, and just taking that basic concept and writing around that is where they need to go back to. For me, the Acolyte, like you say, had elements that was really great and really cool. But then when you go too far one way, I think it becomes subject to interpretation, and then you start to bring into law, and does this follow the timeline? Does it follow the sequence of events? How does it relate to the Force? And it starts to bring into questions, and we've gone away from the good old good versus evil story and basically making it very, very simple. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, but the thing is though, you're absolutely spot on. Star Wars is basically a simple story. It's good versus evil. It doesn't need to get any more complicated than that, surely.
No, I totally agree. And when you look at all this Star Wars media content, one of my favorite Star Wars movies is actually Rogue One. And why?
Yeah.
It's good versus evil. You already know the ending before you've watched the movie.
Yeah.
You don't want it to happen. You think, how can they change it? They don't deviate from the story. And from that standpoint, it just comes to a conclusion, and it's sad. But it was just a basic story. And, it is more of that war theme, constant. And again, it just depends on, you can have people wielding lightsabers, or you can have people running around that are just normal individuals. And as long as you stick to that simple concept of story and don't bring into question lots of other things, then I think you're onto a winning formula.
Is that where you think things get complicated then? Because George Lucas created this foundation, this universe. It come with lore, because you had the original trilogy, then he went back and did the prequels. and there's a lot of lore involved in that. So with the films, they worked quite well. Do you think that when other people step in and they don't quite get the lore of Star Wars, and that's when it gets complicated if they try and change things up too much?
No, because again, if you look at the prequel trilogy, there's so many conflicts there. I mean, when you consider that, you know, C-3PO and R2-D2 and all of the links between, you know, where they sit in the timeline, and that, you know, Anakin was building C-3PO, and then it, you know, fast forward, there's so much that conflicts with the original story that you have to interpret how that would work out. And I mean, there's clever people out there that do that, but the reality is that even the prequels, if we go back to when the prequels came out, there was so much ambiguity, there was so many unanswered questions. But actually the prequels kind of also had a similar kind of slating from the audience. Some people loved it, great, knew all these new people that were involved in Star Wars. But for me personally, at that time, it was like, I don't get it. I don't like it. It's not the original Star Wars. And then fast forward 5-10 years, and you start to go, oh yeah, it's actually pretty cool, and just enjoy it for what it is. And I get the feeling that in 5 to 10 years time, when we're looking back at Kenobi, Book of Boba Fett, Acolyte, I think we're going to have a newfound love for that media. I really do.
Ooh, okay, all right. Well, maybe the Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan, but that's a strong statement regarding the Acolyte. Look, listen.
What I'm going to ask you a question now, so I'm going to spin this on you. What was so bad about the Acolyte that you say I can't go back and watch that?
Well, look, I mean, listen, it wasn't great for lots of reasons, and I know people are throwing, you know, branding that us older generation of fans, or a lot of us older generation fans, as racist and bigots. I'm going to say it, but the thing is, the story and the writing weren't great. I mean, it's, you know, as we're going to discuss in a bit, the story is what drags you in to Star Wars in the first place. I mean, it was just steeped with story and, you know, great writing and great acting and you know, like I said, you had the lore between, you know, it was set in Star Wars. For me, that just seemed to be totally forgotten. It was like everything that George Lucas did is sort of being taken apart bit by bit within the Acolyte. They're changing things up. It's like, I mean, like I say, you've got a great foundation there. George Lucas left Star Wars in a good place. And I'm not blaming it all on Disney. I think Lucasfilm do have some, you know, are to blame as well. But again, with the sequels, you know, they could have done so much better. You know, the Book of Boba Fett, it seemed like it was a legacy character that they just, for some unknown reason, they didn't do what they should have done with him. I mean, you know, 2 of those episodes in that series were based on the Mandalorian. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, for me, that kind of undermines Boba Fett in his own series. You know, I mean, yes, the Mandalorian is taking the place of what Boba Fett was, which is this great bounty hunter, the most feared bounty hunter in the galaxy, but it just didn't make sense at the end. Like we've said before, you know, him riding around on that Rancor and stuff like that, which looked absolutely awful. But not only that, what was the point of him doing all this? Because at the end of the day, he just turned around and said, no, this is not for me. So what was the point? It's just little things like that. It just seems really nitpicky. And with the Acolyte, I mean, it wasn't very well acted. I don't think it was very well cast. I mean, look, the guy who played Master Salt, he learned English in a short space of time to do that. I think he was okay. He deserved better. And I think it's Manny Jacinto who played Quimir. Listen, I got nothing against the guy. I thought he did great. I really did. But the others, I just, how it was written, how the characters were portrayed and stuff like that, I don't know. And I just,
but if you look back through time, some of the acting in the original and other movies was terrible as well. It was wooden. It came across badly, and yet we still love it. And I think to a certain degree, there's a forgiving factor that says, you know what, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but that's okay. And
but that's the thing. You've said that, Gary. There's so much Star Wars now that you don't have to like absolutely everything. And that's perfectly okay. Yeah. I don't have a problem with that. It's these other people that seem to think you're branded a certain way or certain names and stuff like that because you don't like it because it's, you know, it's a cast made up of you know, the LBGQT community. That's not the case. I couldn't care if as a black female lead. That didn't bother me at all. What bothers me is the fact that it was really poorly written. So in a way, they've kind of been stitched up by the writing and by the directing.
It's kind of funny you say that because we're coming up to what the Skeleton Crew that's going to be launched not in not too distant future. I'm actually concerned for that because I like Jude Law, but casting Jude Law as a Jedi, I'm already sitting on the fence, and I shouldn't be sitting on the fence about now a new show that's coming up, and I'm already questioning, you know, will I enjoy it? And I think you just got to stop and just say, hey, I'll enjoy it for what it is, and I'm sure that there will be elements of the show that were great, and you know they're including
absolutely. But the thing is, the Acolyte, and it's not a case of it was because it was set in a different time period to anything else that we're used to with Star Wars. It could have worked. It had the potential to be such a fantastic show set in that era of the Jedi. How cool would that have been? But it was just poorly executed, and that was down to poor writing and poor directing. That's as simple as that. You know, and for people to keep branding us as this, that, and the other. But listen, with the Skeleton Crew, that is aimed at kids. That is aimed at kids. We all know it. Yeah. You know, Star Wars was aimed at kids. We were kids when Star Wars came out.
I disagree there, right? Because if you go back to the original movies, if you go and this is what I love about Star Wars, it was always classified as the BBFC as universal, suitable for all, and I think that is the one key takeaway from Star Wars that you can say it was suitable for all. So you had children, adults, and everybody in between. You know, grandparents, you know, parents and children. It was suitable for all, and now I think we're kind of, you know, breaking it off into, oh well, this piece is for this and this is that. That's where you also lose a little bit of the concept of Star Wars, because it really is universal. And from that perspective, they should be making content that is universal.
Well, they did up to a certain point. They have done. You know, like you say, Star Wars is for everybody and should be made for everybody. Everybody should be able to relate to it. Like you said, why they've got a, you know, this you know, this is going to be aimed at like little girls. This is going to be aimed at the LGBTQ or whatever community. I don't get it. It should be for everybody. Star Wars should be relatable to everybody.
That's the world we live in, Stu. We've moved on from, you know, the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the noughties and everything in between, the teens. The world is a different place now, and again, we talk about inclusion, but then we don't. It was much easier then to say everything was universal and everybody was involved. Now we have to break it down into fractions and say, oh, it's covering all these bases and covering this whole spectrum. Look at this, because we've included this. Well, the time you pointed out is the time that it's not universal for all anymore, because you've now got those elements that says, oh, I can relate to that. I can relate to this. Who cares? It's what we should be happy about is it's Star Wars content. We had to wait so bloody long for content to be released that then when we move the schedule forward, now we're arguing that says, oh, perhaps we've got too much content, perhaps we wait too long, too short a period of time.
No, I get that. We have, you know, since Disney have taken over, we have been bombarded with Star Wars. And for me personally, what I found great about Star Wars, you know, was the fact that it was escapism. You could go to the movies, you could go and watch Star Wars. You know, it was an escapism from real life. It's not real, for crying out loud. You know, it's a story set, you know, in a galaxy far, far away. You know, let's keep it that way. Why try and alter that? Why try and change a formula that you know, it doesn't need to be changed? Because for me, Star Wars was never broken. It was inclusive. It always has been inclusive. You've always had the strong. I mean, we're jumping the gun here because we're just getting straight to the crux of it, aren't we? I mean, geez, you know, it's got strong female leads. You know, it always has done. It's had a diverse cast. It always has done. Rogue One, for example. You know, you're saying that was one of your favorite films. That was a really diverse cast.
Yeah.
You know, and that was absolutely superb. And it all boils down to just good writing.
Good
That's as simple
story.
as that's
Yeah.
all we want is a good writing and good story. And for me, that lacked a lot in The Acolyte.
But so this is like Rogue One, Andor. We get into that conversation. It's easier to write for that because there is a timeline that says between here and here this has to happen. So you
Yeah.
have a runtime of 2 hours that says I got to start here and I've got to get to there, and putting it in my GPS system, I'm going to go this way and this way and this way and this way, but I've still got to end at this destination. So writing for Andor and Rogue One is easier than writing something that's okay. Now let's create something, you know, completely different and universal for all. And there are no guidelines. If you color in between the lines and in the boxes, it's so much easier than saying, hey, do a freehand drawing and there are no boundaries. And that's the problem.
I mean, there was lots of stories they could have taken.
Yeah.
And they could have, you know, all the expanded universe stuff that's been made non-canon. They could have picked bits and stuff like that. You know, there were stories there that they could have taken stuff from and just adapted. You know, so I don't know. I listen. It doesn't help when you get people like Leslie Headland turn around and say she brought in a load of writers that knew nothing about Star Wars. What's the point of that? That's like me going into Liverpool FC Football Club and managing a team I know bugger all about football or tactics or anything like that. Even though I trained as a coach as a kid or when I was younger, there's no chance I'll go in there and they'll be like looking at me going, "Who's this? Who's this?" What was Lucasfilm thinking? Hiring someone like that in the first place, and then her getting writers in who didn't know anything about Star Wars. I mean,
that's the lesson learned, right? When you try something and it fails, and you just, as long as you don't put your hand back in the fire and go, oh, it still hurts when I put my hand in the flame, don't do it again. They tried something, it didn't work, and then they've come back and said, hey, it didn't work, and we're blowing up, and we're not going to see it again. Now you have the people going, oh, it's a shame that Acolyte's not going to get a second series. Because there are people that like that content and think that, you know, with a different writer and a different thing, you could take it in a different direction, and that's always the problem, right? Look at the sequel trilogy. You know, I had again elements, and because you then change, you know, from an executive producer to boom 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 boom, you had different views and different concepts of how to piece this all together, and it, you know, right now the sequel suck. In 10 years time we'll all go, it's not so bad, look at it, you know, there again, it's got some really, really good elements, it's got some key characters you can associate with those things, how they, you know, kill people off and do all of that. It's like mind-blowing sometimes that you think, why did they do that? But it is what it is.
If you look at the original trilogy, you had one director per film. You had one director. You had George Lucas, who wrote and co-produced and directed Star Wars. Then you had Gary Kurtz with him. For Empire, there was George and Gary Kurtz, and then he had Irvin Kershner as a director. Right? Return of the Jedi, you had another guy, I can't remember his name, who directed, produced, because Gary Kurtz wasn't there.
Conflict,
but you had George Lucas, and you had oh, for crying out loud, Richard Marquand as the director. Right, so there wasn't that many people there, and it was pretty much the same with the prequels. You had George Lucas and Rick McCallum, and you had like a small, close-knit group around that as production. But these days, I noticed with the Disney movies, you had the director. I mean, you had two different directors. I mean, the story wasn't written, but you had so many producers. There's too many people getting involved and putting their fingers in the pie. And, you know, they're pulling it this way, and someone wants this in, and someone wants that one, that bit in, and stuff like that. Or, you know, I don't get that, right? You have one producer, one director, and one co-producer. That's it.
But it's not movie related anymore, is it? You know, this media content that we have is, they have these kind of, you know, somewhat guest producers or something like that, in terms of, you know, trying different things and piecing the story together. When you watch The Mandalorian and see the different people that directed it, it has a different avenue and a different view, and it doesn't really all piece together. When you actually make a movie and you piece it all back together in terms of one storyline, it should have a harmonious sequence And that, I think that is another issue that we have with this content is that we're not creating movies so much anymore. We're creating this, you know, adventures, and we're doing this and we're doing that. The Mandalorian, you know, season 1, you know, we get into a great storyline, and then season 2, and then it's like, well, we don't know where to go after that. It's, you know, where do we take it? And
do you think they should have left it? Do you think they should have just left it at 2 seasons?
I'm not looking forward to the movie. And again, I'm trying to keep a positive spin. I will certainly watch the movie. I'm sure that, again, there will be elements that I enjoy. But absolutely, I think these limited series need to be somewhat limited. You know, there's too much of a good thing. Look at Boba Fett, right? Boba Fett, super cool dude. Well, he has like about a minute and a half screen time. Doesn't say too much. Now we get the backstory of Boba Fett, and we go, what?
Yeah.
That, you know, this,
it wasn't really a backstory though, was it? That's the thing.
No, that's the in the continuation story. I mean, the elements, you know, when he you know, he gets and destroys all of the stormtroopers. Absolutely, that's Boba Fett at his best.
That was in the Mandalorian, wasn't it? That was in season 2 of the Mandalorian. He was savage.
2.5. It was just absolute. You know, that's how we remember. But that's what we all perceive. The mystery of Boba Fett was, man, that he's just one badass dude that can. And he did. You know, he bends his knee and he shoots. He knocks breaks the helmet. You know, because he's just that hard.
Yeah.
And then he becomes a soft ninny new that says, you know, I don't do that anymore. And then it's like, oh, it's not for me. And then we go, you've broken all the mystery. I mean, I think, you know, now we look to the bounty hunters and go, oh, Dengar, he's really cool, right? I mean, he's a guy just wrapped up in toilet paper, stood on a thing, and you know, now he's cool because there's all the mystery around Dengar and Bosk and Zuka and Boba Fett. It's like, well, we know too much now. This you can go too far with a storyline or character.
Yeah, no, absolutely true. I mean, look, listen, at the end of Mandalorian season 2, when the end credits finished and that like added bit come on with him and Fennec Shand walking into Jabba's palace, and just I was like, what that I was really excited. I was like, wow, this is going to be so cool. But it never played out how I expected it to. When he said, you know, he knows an army and stuff like that, I thought, oh, maybe he's going to be getting in the other bounty hunters and stuff like that.
Here we go.
How cool would that have been? You know, and
Meister Mars or the Power Rangers to join in this.
Oh, crikey, the old mods from Brighton. Yeah, brilliant. But
Quadrophenia in Tatooine.
Yeah, it was Quadrophenia at Tatooine, wasn't it? It was but I'm with you. Do you feel that the expectation of us older generation of fans is so high because the bar has been set so high after the original trilogy that everything has just got to be spot on? Because if there's any chance of it not being spot on, it's going to get absolutely crucified.
Yeah, I get to a point where it's like, you know, people are already slating the show even before it kicks off, and I just the negative side of it is just it becomes ridiculous. You know, this is going to fail. This isn't going to work. Well, you haven't even seen it, so how do you know? And I say setting the bar so high for Star Wars content is because we all grew up with it, and you know, as kids, I'm sure that there's stuff in there that probably didn't make sense, but we didn't care because we weren't young enough to. We were just too young to grasp it. You know, there's always that comedic element in Star Wars that makes you smile, and then, you know, fast forward now, and there's some comedy in some of the sequels, and you go, what? It's not even funny because your sense of humor has changed as you've developed as an adult, and so it just doesn't. Sometimes it just doesn't work anymore.
But and the thing is, I find with Star Wars, it was you know, made in 77. It came out in 77. Like you said, times were different. It was cheesy, but that's what it wanted to. That's what he wanted it. He wanted it to be like a cheesy space western. You know, like not Buck Rogers. Who's the other one? Flash Gordon or something like that. You know, that's what he wanted, and he got that. It was absolutely brilliant. Then the second movie comes along. how can you beat Star Wars? Well, Empire Strikes Back comes along and it beats Star Wars. It was huge. I mean, it was dark. You know, things didn't go right for the rebels and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And it was, you know, the greatest reveal ever. I am your father. I mean, how cool is that? And that's the plot twist, by the way. And yeah, absolutely brilliant. Then Return of the Jedi come out again, equally just as good. And so yeah, it set the bar high. But
that's some of my favorite moments. If you actually go and that's how you enjoy Star Wars today, right? You can watch children watch those reveals and their faces just like, you know,
yeah,
just
yeah.
to see that reveal, and it's always the same, but you can only kind of do that once, right? It's the same as movies like Layer Cake. The ending of Layer Cake is absolutely awesome. Does it once and then you move on. And there are that's what we're missing is those type of moments in Star Wars now, because there's too many leaks, there's too much social media, there's too many people involved. People want to talk about the stuff that's coming down the pipe, so then they start to leak information out, and then when there is no reveal anymore. Like you say, when you know when Luke came you know, in his X-wing and kind of, you know, destroyed the Death Troopers, everybody knew that Luke was going to be there. It was no major reveal. The last major reveal that we had was Grogu, which everybody, that was probably the best kept secret of the new media content of watching Star Wars. And then when everybody was like, "Oh shit, Baby Yoda," you know, that what the hell? And that was a super reveal. But we don't get that anymore. I don't feel like we do.
No,
because,
no, we
like
don't.
say,
We don't.
people are just leaking information. You know, when even you know, in all the toy lines now and all of that, the Star Wars reveals, everybody, if you go to yakface.com, you can see what's coming down the pipe. There is no excitement. Then we'd see a Hasbro stream and we go, the stream was terrible, it was rubbish, because they didn't do anything other than what we already know, and there was no big hoo-ha about it, and that's the problem. We've got to get back to having none of this leaking information into the system, and I don't know how you can overcome
it
that.
won't. I don't think you will, because like you say, we're living in a different time now. It's all about social media. People can't keep their mouth shut.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
Look,
And
look at the filming for the is it the Mando movie where we've got the snow troopers, and then people are taking pictures and posting it on Twitter and then all of that of this. And
because that was at D23, wasn't it? That
yeah. But there was also, before that, where they were filming, people were taking pictures of.
Oh, really?
And it's just like, man, that just I don't want to see it. You know, the excitement of waiting for a trailer and announcing when a trailer is that you can then deep dive it and explore that 1 minute 30 or 2 minutes of, did you see that? Did you and then that spirals into then more leaks coming and stuff like that. So it's a perpetual system where you want more information, but you don't want more information.
Yeah. Well, you'd be pleased to know we're half an hour into the conversation, and I've not even asked you one of the questions that I've got written down.
Brilliant. So there you go.
It's all good. Yeah. So, what were your earliest memories of Star Wars?
So for me, it was I'm one of 5, and I'm the youngest, and so I had 3 older brothers and one sister. And it was the Star Wars figures that I was basically gifted from, I think, my older brother. So he had this, you know, the Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. Those are the figures I remember. And you know, as kids, those toys, you know, they were my pride and joy. They were stored in an ice cream tub. You know, used to get the big ice cream tub, the plastic containers. You had one for your marbles, you had one for your Star Wars figures, and so on and so on. And it was all segregated. And then you would go and play with it, but then you'd make sure that you had the E11 blaster and the DL44, and you know, and the lightsaber and tip was still intact. I treated my toys with such respect at that time that, you know, they just lasted and lasted. So for me, it was the figures that, and then the other thing that I absolutely loved was the trading cards. So the top trading cards. And I only ever remembered the blue and the red. series 1, series 2, and from that standpoint, I just remember trading various things to get cards. So we lived in a cul-de-sac on the street, and there was a whole array of different kids and different ages, and we basically just trade stuff. I inherited a load of Matchbox toys and cars and all of that, and the kid up the street, he was into that, and he had Star Wars cards. So I'd be trading, this vintage car or Matchbox thing for the cards, and so it was typically never anything new per se. It was typically trades. However, I did have one older brother that would take me to the toy store and get me a carded figure. But in thinking about it, it's kind of strange because I always picked on the random figures. Like I remember getting an FX7. And I mean, the articulation on that is up and down with the head, and the white legs come out and you put it back. And I remember buying an Ugnaught, and it was just like, I obviously had the mains, but it was always when I purchased a new figure, it was always probably the obscure ones that I was attracted to. It's kind of strange.
So with your figures then, I mean, you obviously knew the characters and stuff. So could you relate to them more once you'd seen the films?
Yeah, I mean, I just, it's kind of funny, isn't it? I watched the movie, and I just want to be Harrison Ford. I mean, he's just cool, suave. Yeah. He's Mr. Slick. He's something went wrong. Who needs?
What went wrong? What went wong?
Yeah, Siri is reaching out to me. So yeah, just to kind of be that guy and just be so cool.
Yeah.
I associate with Harrison Ford, and going, just wanting to be that guy, be that man.
Like you said, I think every kid wanted to be that guy. So after Return of the Jedi, then did you think that was it for Star Wars? Did you think that they were going to go back and do the prequels?
No, I literally thought that I thought that was it. I mean, I know it said Episode 4. I never really picked up on the fact that that they were going to go back and do 1, 2, and 3, and really never had it in the mindset that they would do that. There's elements that says great that they did it, and then there's elements to me that says it would have been best left
left alone.
Just left alone. And it's kind of like say, it's kind of funny.
It's been mentioned before. I think with Shabby last week, it was a case of like lightning in a bottle. It was magic. I mean, the whole experience of the original trilogy was like just wow. It just really was. But saying that, the prequels did have their good moments. They did have their moments.
And that's the problem I would say is that I always felt that character development was always critical and key, right? So you had Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill, and it was consistent, and there was a journey.
Yeah.
Like I think you and Chevy were talking about Darth Maul. When you saw Darth Maul, and and then next minute he's cut in half and he's dead. Yeah. And it's just, well, why bother then? I mean, he's so evil, he's so awesome, he's so strong, and yet there was no real character development. I know they've gone back and he survived mechanical leg and creature leg, mechanical leg, and all of that, which kind of goes meh. But for me, every time that we have new Star Wars content, we actually don't get the character development that we want.
No, we don't. No. I mean, to be fair,
Zori Bliss. I mean, I mean that the helmet, the character. You go, yeah, there's bound to be an awesome back plot there, and then it's skidded over, and there's nothing. Yeah. And then we're on Praetorian Guards. Oh my God, these are awesome, and then all of a sudden they're all dead, and there is just pockets of character development, and then they just kill it off, and that's the worst thing is that you can relate to something and then stick with it, because by the time you do, they're gone.
Well, it's like Captain Phasma. I mean, she looked fantastic in the trailer for Force Awakens. She didn't really do too much in the Force Awakens. She didn't really do too much in The Last Jedi either. And then you had the Sith troopers, the Red Stormtroopers at the end of Rise of Skywalker. But you could say the same thing with characters like Count Dooku. You didn't get much story on him, but then you did, because if you go into the Clone Wars, you had 7 seasons of absolute fantastic animation, you know, with great stories that went into character building, and do you know what I mean, and character development. And I learned a lot about Count Dooku through the Clone Wars, and then for me that made him okay. He's not too bad in the movies now, because you know what he's about and stuff like that. And Darth Maul, to be fair, I don't think they should have killed him off in the first place. They should have left him as the main protagonist all the way through.
All the way through, yeah.
Or at least halfway through the second movie. But when they did bring him back, I mean, some of the stuff they did with him, I just thought was great. I mean, he was a great character. But
yeah, I mean, he's just pure evil, right? I mean, you just look at him, and it's super cool. But the challenge is, like saying, I actually haven't seen Clone Wars, so I'm gonna go out there. I struggle with animation and kind of that type of content. I don't know what it is.
Well, look, it's not for everybody. That's the thing, isn't it? That's what I mean. You've got so much Star Wars. It's not for everybody.
And then it gets to the point where it's like, oh yeah, go back and watch 7 seasons, but watch from season 4 to season 7. It's like, yeah, I don't even have that time anymore. I just want to watch the hour and a half movie. And I'm going to go to, I don't know, Empire Strikes Back and watch the movie and get all the feel good and all the pieces that You saying that, it's another question for you. Do you think Star Wars should just solely be made for the big screen? No TV series and no animated series or anything like that? I mean, because I know there's me personally, that's where the magic happens, right? Going and seeing that on a screen. Like you say, I remember going now back to the 40th anniversary for Return of the Jedi and going to the movie and all of that, and it's just like, on a 70-foot screen with the Dolby Atmos sound, and it's just like, yeah, baby.
Absolutely.
That's and again, I know that most people probably have that kind of setup in their house now. Gone are the days where you had the 4 channels and a wooden box with a Cafe Ray tube box where you would still enjoy the movie. But
you would.
But yeah, it for me, it is the big screen that is the big draw. It is that cinematic, that whole concept. And I think that some of the media that you put either through now, like the Disney Plus and all of that, I'm not a fan of waiting for stuff. I like to binge watch, and if I have to wait a week, I kind of get bored or want to go and do something else. So then I end up stacking them, and then when I watch them in like the 2 or 3 episode, they actually for me it works better to do that. But waiting for content to come every week is a challenge. I'm impatient. It's just like like I'd rather have a Netflix series that says here's all 6 episodes and I just binge watch it and go, that was cool. Waiting for content and then hearing spoilers or people second guessing what's going to happen, and then it does happen. You go, well, great.
But that's the only thing, isn't it? When you wait to binge watch it, it's really difficult this day and age not to get spoilers, because people are going to be talking about it all the time. It's on social media, it's out in the streets, it's at work. Do you know what I mean? So it really is difficult to try and I mean, it's bad enough trying to not know the football scores and stuff like that, and then someone got me into, what's the point of watching it now? But anyhow,
it was a good day for you today.
I'm happy. Yeah, I'm all good. What was it about Star Wars that really stood out for you?
Just like you say, going back, it's the inclusion. It was everybody was talking about it. Everybody was, just everybody can resonate or have memories of Star Wars. Like you say, you could have something that was pennies or lots of dollars, lots of pounds worth of stuff, and just the amount of stuff that was out there. When I was writing stuff down, like you say, the toys, the trading cards, there was comics, the posters, there was glasses with, I even have some Burger King glasses, and I just open up the cabinet and it just makes me smile to see from the 80s of just anything and everything. It was just, we were just so immersed in it. And it's funny because, like you say, I didn't leave the UK until what was it, 2006. I'd have loved to have been over in the States when all that phenomenon was going on, because I just think it was like exponential compared to what we had.
Yeah.
You know, the
Oh,
UK
I mean,
was
looking
good.
at some of the stuff that you and Andy picked up in that hall that you found,
Never seen any.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just incredible.
that was the, you know, that was the pure excitement of going back, of seeing stuff that you've never seen before, or actually, you know, piecing it all back together and remembering the stuff that you did have. You know, I had limited amount of vehicles. I remember having the land speeder. That was my favorite, and a snow speeder, and both of those things were just super cool to me. You know, we you know, like you say, most of the toys that we got were either trades or inherited or hand-me-downs or given. But you know, there was always somebody that had something. You know, a kid up the street had the Millennium Falcon. Be like, oh my god, man, the Millennium Falcon is like just wow. And then I remember that kid. He was allowed to paint his bedroom black of all colors. It was you know, it was floor to ceiling black, and then he'd done silver stars, and he had shelves and figures and ships hanging from the ceiling. You know, yeah, my mum and dad wouldn't at that time wouldn't have. I think I had skateboard wallpaper on the wall, and that was as far as it was going. But you know, to be able to go and see, you know, and just see that was just very cool.
No, yeah, definitely cool. And I mean, some of the stuff that you guys picked up as well. Wow, I mean, I've not seen it before, and it's just awesome to look back and think, wow, we had some pretty cool stuff back then. Absolutely.
And it's amazing how much stuff is like you say. There was so much stuff that it has survived over time. We're talking 40, 50 years, and still, you know, there's product out there that is like really mint on card, and that's crazy. I mean, as a kid, like I say, I had no concept of keeping a card nice and all of that. I kept my figures nice, but as soon, I mean, as somebody handed me a card, it was like bubble off, cardboard ripped, and it was in the trash. I love the artwork, and I have a new found appreciation of all those card backs, because it, you know, it stimulates the mind of going back. But at that time, it was like not something you kept, you know.
No, exactly. Absolutely. You just want to get those figures out and play with them. Absolutely. How important is story to you within the Star Wars universe?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's where it all starts and finishes with story. And you know, from my aspect, it really is keep it simple. You want the good guys, you want the bad guys, and you want to have a good story about, you know, you're winning, you're losing, there's you're up against it, and you know, you overcome. And you know, I tell you what, it'd be really interesting to see a dark side movie where, you know, like the Empire, you know, completely, you know, wins, and it kind of ends, you know. You know, we always want the good guys to win, right? You know? It's funny because there's not many movies out there where it says that didn't happen, and it, you know, it was.
I'll tell you what I'd really like to see is a Darth Vader series, just on him going around and searching for the Jedi that, you know, that survived Order 66.
Again, Rogue One at the end, when he's just badass, right? You know, you go through the corridors, and it's like, you know, grab, and it's up, and it's doom, and it's bang, and it's just that's what we want to see. The one good thing about, like, say, some of the stuff that we've seen is that they haven't cut back on saber fights and stuff like that. The fight scenes is what we want to see. We want to see a real battle, and just to see him just go at it, pretty darn cool. And, you know, broken necks, and, you know, there has been some elements you go, ooh, that was pretty dark, but that's reality. You know, it always annoys me when I watch, you watch these TV series, and they're going around with their gun, and then they burst in a room, and then they see the person, and they still don't fire the gun. Well, ain't gonna happen, right? The dude walks in and off with the head, and, you know, and that's reality. Yeah.
I mean, do you think Star Wars is lacking? Do you think Star Wars is lacking wow moments? Because, like I said, the original trilogy was just full of wow moments. You had some wow moments in the prequels. you know, I think what was it? The Book of Boba Fett, not the Book of Boba Fett, the Mandalorian. For me, there was some couple of wow moments in there when you hear the slave one coming along and you see like Boba Fett at his best taking out those stormtroopers, and then obviously the end of the Mandalorian season 2 when Luke comes in, he's taking out those dark troopers. I mean, so there have been a couple of wow moments. Vader as well at the end of Rogue One.
Yeah.
But do you think that there is a lack of wow moments in Star Wars these days? Because nothing at the moment really. I think the last wow moment for me was Luke turning up in the episode 2 of the last season of Mandalorian.
It is hard because, like you say, when you watch Rogue One, I mean, it's just a typical, war story of. I mean, the wow moments are not, it's not every, every scene. It, like you say, it has that comedic element. K2SO for me was just a revelation again. It's just, I'm here to rescue you, and like, poof, knock you down on the floor. It's just that's the comedy that I remember of Star Wars. And like you say, sometimes it works and sometimes it just doesn't. K2SO was awesome, and really looking forward to Andor, the second series, because I just think that they're going to absolutely nail it. Andor for me has been the best content we've had for quite some time. Rogue One was certainly there.
Yeah.
Again, Solo, the Solo movie was good. There was elements that really made sense, and then there was elements that was Yeah.
The thing is, I think with Solo, it didn't really stand a chance, did it? Because of the Last Jedi. So it came out straight off the heels of Last Jedi. That got an absolute slating, but I think by that time, most fans are like, "Oh, crikey, I can't."
And you're recasting Harrison Ford, right? I mean, even he is good, but taking someone and then you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you recast, then you should have done CGI and and then if you do that, then it's not good enough, and so I think you go back to the expectations are just too high.
Maybe left it alone. Maybe they shouldn't have done a Solo movie.
Maybe. The
thing is,
content. It's again, that Carillion, when you see that speeder that and then you have the patrol officer on the bike, and there's all these vehicles and all that, and you're just like, oh man, this is super cool, and then it kind of peters out, and then it comes back again. I don't know. It for me. We should be happy that we have Star Wars content. So I suppose that it was a movie, and that's.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, let's with that.
So negative, Stu.
It's not. I'm not happy with Star Wars content. Yeah, great, we got Star Wars, but let's not flog it to death. Let's, there's a thing, quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. And,
I mean, the Marvel franchise went through that, right? I mean, with how they set up their movies, and then it just became content over the quality. And
I mean, look, Marvel phases 1, 2, and 3, I thought were absolutely superb. Ending in Endgame, I thought that was absolute quality how they managed that. Not all the films were great, but when you put them together in the puzzle, it just was, watch them in chronological order. It was absolutely superb. I really enjoyed it. I think they did a great job. Then after that, I think ever since 2020, things have gone pretty shit, haven't they? Really, do you know what I mean? But the world's gone mad.
When you're at the top of your game and you've done the best, where do you go from there? And that's always the bar that's been set so high from the original.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you again was talking with Shabby about the additional CGI bits being put back in the specialized.
Yeah.
For me, I don't like that. It doesn't fit. To see, what was it, Han and Jabba at the Millennium Falcon, and basically they had the actor and he walks around. And they did the Yelp and all of that. It's just like, it just reminds me of all the prequel stuff that doesn't really enamor me. Again, it's content, but is it content that we actually needed? What are you is it much a better movie now that those elements are in there? And the answer is no. I mean, it really.
I think when I know because he was disappointed by the fact that the cantina scene didn't play out how he wanted to because of like lack of budget and stuff like that. But for what it was, I think it worked really well. I don't think there was any need to sort of like go back and change it.
No.
Were there things in with the what's it called, the special editions that I don't, again, I think they should have just left the films as they were. Go back and clean them up, you know, tidy up some special effects and stuff like that. Yeah, by all means do that. I mean, because you know, I went to see Return of the Jedi for the 40th, and I watched it, and again, a timeless movie, but you can see blocking and stuff like that with the special effects, and you just think you could have tidied that up. Do you know what I mean? They could have changed that. They could have tidied it up and cleaned it up and stuff like that, because they did a lot. They cleaned up a lot of stuff in The Empire Strikes Back. I didn't notice it, but when they showed you in the cockpit of the snowspeeder, the two struts that coming down on the either side, you could see through those. They were supposed to be like the windscreen of the the snowspeeder. You could see through those, so they cleaned it up so that you couldn't see through it. There's little things in Return of the Jedi they could have done. I mean, I don't think they should have changed the song in Return of the Jedi. You know, in Jabba's song, they shouldn't have done that. You know, that was just but listen, you know,
that's what they do, right? I mean, it's creative content, right? So when you know, you look at certain movies about director's cut, and then they go back and then they do different, you know, sometimes it probably satisfies them, but as watching the original, I'd be more than happy just to watch the original and not worry about it. But it like you say, I just go back to all the things that, you know, came out of the movies. You know, I remember, you know, again, growing up and going to the, you know, arcade when we used to go to the, you know, to the beach and all of that, and there was the Star Wars game, and then and then when you were old enough, you had a computer console, and you had the Atari 2600, and you had the Jedi training thing, and it was crap. It was terrible, but it was brilliant. It was fantastic. It was just I
could never get to grips with that. I could never play that game. I was like, what is this? What is? Oh God, yeah.
It just there was. And again, it was content overload, but it was okay. You know, everything was themed, and I don't think that we get that anymore. And I don't think that people want that anymore anyway. I mean, it was a time where it was more limited, and therefore that was the big thing. And now I think we've just moved on so far that, you know, we're looking for the next big thing, but it ain't gonna come.
You don't reckon it will?
No. Did you watch the what was the one that was pitched as a Star Wars movie recently that ended up being on Netflix? There was a two-parter that was content, and again, there were elements where it was good, and then it looks like they just don't know where to take it.
Oh, Rebel Moon.
Rebel Moon. First one was I thought first one was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was like, a bit of cheese in it, and it was like, oh, you know, we got these band of people, and then the second one, oh my God, it's like,
Didn't you not like that?
No, the second one was just diabolical. It was, and I'm being positive now. That was diabolical. It's just not the same anymore. And like you say, maybe it's just the times have changed, and you know, I go back. You kind of have to resonate with the character and character development in that storyline. If you have somebody that you can relate to or you know, aspire to be, then it's easier to kind of have that association and get behind it. I think some of the characters that they put into there, and it's like people can't relate. You know,
no, they can't, and that's the thing. You know, that's why I think it's important that Star Wars is for everybody, and you don't single out different groups, because as I said last week to Shabby, I can't relate to people from the LGBTQT community. I can't. And when they've got something
don't you just look at content today and go, there are a bunch of cosplayers running around. That's what I don't know whether it's the quality of the video or the aspect of how it's filmed. When I see they're wearing costume, it looks like a bunch of cosplayers that have just, you know, got together and we're making Star Wars content, you know, and that for me is is paramount to getting it right. You know, when we see all these costumes now, it just reminds me of a bunch of cosplayers just, you know, in
Well, it did in the Acolyte. I mean, they were terrible. Those Jedis were absolutely awful. And I'm not saying the main characters as such, but the background characters.
When Balin Skull and the what was it?
I can't remember the name now.
Shin.
Yeah, Shin. That's it.
When they turn up and on the shuttle and they get out, and then you're looking around going, "Huh? That's somebody in a cosplay and a rubber mask," and it's just like it didn't look like that when it was Star Wars. It was so grainy and bad, and maybe you just got away with it. But the costumes then are so much better than what it looks like today, and that's a worry. And then for me, when it comes to the prequels, there was too much CGI. It was almost, you know,
I think that's a big
generated. I mean, it was like, you know, George gets excited about, oh, this is available, and then it's, you know, oh, we're going to go 100% that. Well, no, and that's an issue. So I don't, like to say, I don't know if it's just the, you know, these new techniques, or we've just come to the point where, you know, the ultra, you know, 8K or whatever what we're filming in is just too detailed for what we're trying to do. It's weird.
It is weird, but I mean, you know, you say about the costumes and stuff like that, and how, you know, there's too much CGI in the prequels. The sequels, I have to give them credit for the fact that they did go back to the old way of doing things and had sets and stuff like that, and you had people as dressed as stormtroopers, so they looked. And you know, I thought those First Order troopers looked absolutely. I didn't mind them too much. I didn't think they were too bad, like looking wise, and you know, the cinematography in some of those films was pretty decent. But again, we know the story wasn't great and stuff like that, and you know, but
and then you have some kind of space horse running across a ship, you know, a Star Destroyer or whatever it was. You know.
I actually love that. That reminded me of My Little Pony. That's what that did. I love that. That was cool. I was expecting to.
Which one was it, Stu? You know, I know that you're an expert, a resident expert.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I can't say. Moving on. How important do you think the older generation of Star Wars fans are to the Star Wars franchise?
I think that's key, and that's one of my concerns. I think from people that are our age are kind of getting to a certain, you know, age that it won't become an important, and that's when it starts to die off. It's interesting to see that some people that have big collections are now, you know, I think they're cashing out, and it's getting to the point where, like you say, will people still want this stuff going forward? You know, we're excited about seeing a C-3PO mint on card, you know, a 12-back A, and all of that. But it becomes to a certain time where I think that it just tapers off, and there isn't the excitement or the need for that anymore. So I think that it's got a limited lifespan. You know, that 50, 60 year time frame becomes, you know, we're seeing actors that are no longer here. You know, you see the Force ghosts of the original cast, and now we're down to basically Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill, right? Of the, you know, of that glorious picture of Prowse.
And Anthony Daniels as well.
There you go. Yeah, but he's not. I don't think he's in that shot. He may be in that shot. I don't know. But there's a black and white photo.
I've seen that. Yeah,
Peter Mayhew and all of that. They're all Force ghosts now, and it'll be interesting with like Anthony Daniels, that, you know, post his passing, does people start to offload? You know, does his stuff become more valuable? And it's kind of strange to think that way. But a lot of collectors are actually stepping out of the market. There's a big, huge auction that's coming up in 2025 on Hakes that has got like the single largest Star Wars collection of some pieces. And it's just like, you know, is that the end of it? You know, people are starting to get out of that collecting mode. It's I suppose it does have a limited lifespan, and it comes down to basically the age of individuals.
Yeah, I mean, would you get rid of your collection?
No, I don't think I will. I mean, the worry is that, you know, I probably invest a little bit too much, and
Really?
go a little bit crazy sometimes.
I don't believe
The
that.
the only thing that I need to do is probably update a spreadsheet and give my daughter at least a cat's chance of getting what she needs to get for certain things. I don't know. I just envisage her either just dumping it,
Yeah,
or you know, probably, hey, you know, put it all in in an auction like a Heritage or a Hakes or something like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
and just get what you can for it, and that's okay. It I'm sure at a certain point in time it will come to a head, you know.
Man, that's yeah, that's morbid. Yeah,
It is
it
hard
is.
to.
And listen, it's not just morbid about the collections and stuff like that, but I think it's sad to think that I see. For me, I can't imagine life without Star Wars. I mean, it's not the be all and end all, but it was something that you know our generation grew up with. It's something that we hold very dear. It was the biggest set of movies of its time, and I think it still is the biggest set of movies, in my opinion. Um, and I just don't think it can't be topped. I don't think it can be topped.
Well, the good thing I would say about, like you say, there's lots of negatives with social media. The one positive, and you know, we're having this discussion now, is like you say, the interaction that people globally can connect and
Yeah,
have a common, you know, admiration or a love of Star Wars, and you know, reconnecting and being able to kind of, like you say, not do it virtually or actually physically meeting up at like either conventions. That's probably one of the highlights in the last few years for me. It's just the
yeah,
community, the community. You know, there's obviously fractions of that, but for the most part, it's all positive, and we talk about the things that we enjoy. We share,
yeah,
you know, pictures. There's never any like, oh, I can't believe that you've got that. It's always, oh my gosh, you know, how
yeah,
fantastic. You know, like you say, we had Shabby was talking about Jeff Barker when he, you know, comes
yeah,
up with
yeah.
the
God,
first
oof.
12 mint on cards and all that. It's like there is a little element of jealousy there, but you know, what an awesome pickup, and to be able to go
Yeah,
on stream and share that is just
yeah,
it's fantastic, you know. And then when me and Andy did the haul, that we've done a few online
yeah,
sales to be able to share some of the stuff that we got with other people. I mean, the you know, recently in the last one, was it Biker Scout 74? Kevin Cox got the original Creature Cantina,
yeah.
and I tell you what, that guy's over the moon with that pickup. You know, it's mint in box.
Yeah.
I've never seen one like it. It was hard for me to let it go, but him getting that and receiving
Oh,
that,
yeah.
and
He's changed his name, isn't he?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, to Cantina. It's Kev Cox's Cantina or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
the messages that he was sending me, and you know, I, as always, when we sell something, we've always put extras in there. So I put, you know, 3 figures in there with the weapons. He goes, oh, you didn't need to do that. It's like, yeah, but I want to. That's the
yeah,
fun part of this community, is just having a laugh, you
yeah.
know, sharing things. When it's not all about, you know, that we've collected it and now we want top dollar for it. It's just like, yeah, if we can share and just have a happy time and discuss, you know, what better community do we have?
No,
And
absolutely,
and that's
absolutely.
where you've got to shy away and stay away from that negative crap that just that you know, is always present, right? Irrespective of what it is. There's always negativity. There's always issues, but you know, just say, okay, move on.
Yeah,
Don't engage. That's the worst
yeah.
thing that
Well,
can
yeah.
happen, is that you
Yes,
engage
yes, I
and
know.
then
Yes, it is. Yeah. I've, I've
Stu,
done.
engaging is not for you.
No, it's
move,
not. It's
move
not.
along.
Obviously, it's
Nothing to
not. I
see
need
here.
to move
Move
along.
along.
It's but the thing is, you know, I think it's the fact that I engage because I get so wound up because I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah.
I don't want it. See, for me, you've got 3 types of fans. You've got your rational fans, you've got your wokey dokies, and you've got your trolls. And the wokey dokies and the trolls are the minorities, and they're the ones that are shouting the loudest. I mean, us rational fans, look, loads of us have said, you know, during this series, we've said, you know, again, how important is it for strong female characters? How important is it for Star Wars to be inclusive? Well, you've all agreed with that and said, yeah, absolutely, because we've always had strong female characters. Star Wars has always been inclusive. And you know, for people to shout us down and brand us as racist and bigots and stuff like that, you know, I don't like that. And I don't think it's right to call out people or brand people as certain sections and stuff like that as racist and bigots because we don't like a certain TV series because it contains people from the LGBT community. That's not the case. Like I said, I couldn't care that Osha was played.
A good story.
We just want a good story. That's all we want. And
yeah,
for them to turn it political and turn it into a race war. And I mean, it doesn't help when you get people like Leslie Headland, Amanda Stenberg, and Kathleen Kennedy coming out. These people should know better, right? Yeah, you get your trolls that are going to be causing shite and just right. Rise above it. Don't brand everybody under the same brush or tar them with the same brush. It's not right. They shouldn't be doing that. And for me, that's one. I mean, I can't stand Amanda Stenberg now for what she's been saying and what she's been doing, especially that video. And I don't want to bring it down too much on the negativity, but she shouldn't be doing that. I mean, she shouldn't have said what she said. She shouldn't have done that video. And you know, and to blame us fans because it got cancelled, we're just being honest. It wasn't very good.
No. And that's okay. And like I say, you can try something and it didn't work, and you move on and you do something different. And you can always play around with these things, you know, Christmas special. I mean, again, fast forward.
That's a bloody masterpiece compared to the other one, I can tell you that.
You can watch that and you go, what the bloody hell am I watching? And then you go, hey, it's actually, you know, I've watched it now. I've actually made it all the way through the whole
oh, you haven't, have you? Did you really watch that? What was you smoking? What was you smoking?
I tell you what, there was some of it that I was just like, man, this is
I can't believe you've watched it all the way through.
Yeah, I sat in this wonderful room and put the content on and said, right, I'm gonna watch it from start to finish, and I committed to doing it, and I got through it, and that there was certain elements that I was like, wow. But you just got to do it, and at the end of it, you know, I'm better for it. And
your next challenge now is to sit down with your wife and watch it.
Yeah, that would never happen. She really would be, oh, what the is this?
And you know what? That's just reminded me. I've actually ordered that that ceremonial chewy, but it's in a parcel. I've not opened it yet.
Oh my gosh, the
Life
Day chewy.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
I reckon they should release his son.
I've got him.
What?
I've got a custom of what's his name? My gosh.
Oh yeah, I can't remember it.
Yeah, I've got one of him carded. That was actually picked up by Brett on an auction.
Oh right.
And he goes, "Do you want it?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah!"
Oh, was it Lumpy? Was it Lumpy?
But that's what's his name? Is that his name?
Lumpy.
Lumpy.
Yeah.
Lumpy. Yeah. But that's the same thing. It's like you say with collecting, right? You're gonna when you collect. Look, I collect what I want to collect. So I have original, I have reproduction, I have custom, I have retro, and I collect what I want to collect. And you have those purists that says, no, you can't do that. And it's like, well, that's how you collect. That's good for you. But what's good for me is something completely different. And you're always going to have those difference of opinions. If everybody thought the same way in this world, it would be a pretty damn boring world. So you're always going to have that conflict. You're always going to have the issue. It's whether you choose to engage. And that's where I say...
The thing is, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a difference of opinion. Like you said, if we've all... I mean, crikey, I reckon in about 50, 60 years' time, we're all going to be thinking the same things, doing the same things, because that's how they're going to try and mold us into anyway. That's me being controversial. But if you do have a difference of opinion, for the love of God, just respect that person's opinion is different to yours. I don't care if people like that. I'm very happy for them. Very well done. Good job. Right? It doesn't bother me. And I understand and appreciate that people do like it. Loads of people like things that I don't like, right? But I can appreciate things that, you know.
The issue is that in most cases, people hide behind, you know, various, like say, people do it to incite, you know, a reaction. Yeah. It's easy to pen something down, right? We've all written an email that says, "Oh yeah, I'm the big I am," and then that person phones you and it's like, "Oh, hello, yeah, I'm fine." And I've done the same thing. So I've received an email, read it, and it's kind of like, well, I don't like that. I'll pick up the phone and you dial the number, and it's like, oh, hello. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. And so there's that element of putting something out there and just kind of, like you say, inciting some kind of reaction. And the best way to just move forward is just to not worry about it. Move along.
I think I need to come off of X.
Just be a Jedi mind trick and move along. Yeah. We don't need to read your content. Move along.
I've got one more question for you. We've just passed the hour, but it's all good. Overall, Gary, what makes Star Wars great?
I'm going to say that story, just that escapism, the fantasy. You know, it was that time of the world that said, you know, how better to escape into a mystical fantasy land of space, you know, and that's a galaxy far, far away, and that's what we could all relate to. It's just like, you know, you had your day to day, the struggles were real, but then you could just, you know, have fun and go with wherever you wanted to go with it. You know, just Absolutely, as a kid, you could reenact. As an adult, you could just, like you say, just sit and watch content that had no bearing on day-to-day life, and that's, like you say, just great storytelling. And that's what for me Star Wars is about.
Perfectly said. I couldn't disagree. I couldn't agree more, should I say? Yeah, absolutely.
Disagree more.
No. I couldn't agree more. Absolutely spot on. Gary, that's come to the end of the conversation. I just want to say I have thoroughly enjoyed this. You have been really positive, and which has been great, because that's what this series is about. And as much as I did try and squeeze some negativity out of you, you sort of like sidestepped it. But listen, it's been a great conversation, mate. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on. Again,
pleasure.
Just, enjoy it for what it is, and like you say, bring on more content, and I'm sure it'll be good, bad, and indifferent.
No doubt. Anyhow, this has been Gary Moore. Absolutely fantastic guest. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of those who've watched or listened. Listened.
Wow.
Take care, stay safe, and we shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.